What's good? This is Wood, the Pay Me No Mind show. Just getting in a little bit of video work. I kind of wanted to touch base and see where people were with with Showtime's I'm Dying Up Here. Season 2 just ended, I believe, last week. I was a little behind catching the season 2 finale. Um, that was like the first week that I missed a show on Sunday night. And part of it was the show was a little slower this season. But I just wanted to run down a couple of things. All in all, I was getting a little slow. I wasn't losing interest in the show, but the season 2 trailer was phenomenal and had me really, I had a lot of anticipation for season 2. But it just seems like along the way, I don't know, the show kind of lost its comedy and moved more so into drama with everything that was going on with some of the main characters. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. One, so let's jump into my major issues with season 2. And I know my partner might check part of this video out. It's at nighttime. I lost my natural light. I got shadows in the back and everything. This is my microphone right here that I do the Pay Me No Mind podcast with. And, I'm just kind of a quick video to get something up on the channel for a change. But so I'll get into my major issues with the show. It's still one of my favorite shows to check out because I like the realness of the show and that it's down to earth. And then also, we're dealing with the late 70s, I believe. And it's just, I don't know, I might be reaching that age where older stuff, I don't know, maybe it's just nostalgia. But the major issue was the hierarchy of the comics kind of disappeared this season, which was one of the funner aspects of season 1 because the more established comics were performing upstairs in the main room at Goldie's, and downstairs, it was several characters or enough comics who were trying to work their way up to the big room or the main room. So the cellar was just like closed for business this year. And even the show's newcomer, Dawn, the black female, she started out on the main stage, when we first met her this year. So that kind of took away, maybe some opportunities just to see that part of the struggle. And maybe that's what season 2 was. Like, we met everybody last year and where they were, and we saw that part of comedy, that struggle of comedy. And now in season 2, more of the comedians have moved on and advanced and whatnot. And so I think we were dealing with success a little bit. And I'll get into that a little bit more. So number 1 was the hierarchy of the comics disappeared. Ralph really wasn't the main MC too much this year. And like Eddie Zidell got on the big stage in the room, and he never even really put in a lot of work last year in the cellar. So it just seems like they kind of went away from that concept. 2, the stand-up in general, which was a big draw to the show in season 1, the stand-up was minimal. Honestly, a lot of the comedy, which was a real appeal in season 1, a lot of the comedy of the show kind of went away, and I felt like a lot of it was more reserved or moved over into the dialogue between the characters. More one-on-one combination, quick. There was a lot of funny clapbacks or, just the comedians throwing shade at one another in general. So that was kind of, we just didn't see too many long moments of stage time. I think we saw a lot of Dawn when we first met her character. And then that was about it. Like, I don't remember, I just don't remember a lot of on stage time in season 2. 3, my third and final major issue is that Roy Martin, for him to be a newbie, a newcomer to the show, who was played by Brad Garrett, his storyline and screen time, or his screen time, kind of just was a lot for a newcomer, especially a newcomer to a show with such a big ensemble or such a large cast. It was kind of odd to see a new guy come in and get as much time as he did. But maybe it was to show. Last year we learned about kind of newbies and the struggling comics. Maybe the intention of the show's writers and directors and everything this year, the showrunner, was to focus on, aging comics and showing, Roy was in debt. He was going through all this. Actually, he was broke. Well, he was in debt. And he's also getting older and seeing, the comedy change. He's not at the peak of his career. Now he's kind of dealing with all of these youngsters that are coming along. And, how does he reinvent himself? How does he, where does he fit in things, in the big scheme of things? So that's kind of what we were watching with him. But like I said earlier, it was kind of like managing success. Cass had moved on. Adam Proto had moved on. We'll get into some of that in the wins of season 2. Ron Shet, huge victory for him, moving over to being Benny on his show, which was like Watts Local or something. So then along with those people who were more successful, we also had to deal with the people who were kind of in a delay and still figuring things out. So somebody like Seidel, his victories and his advances are coming in different ways in different areas. And, maybe he might not be out front like Shek is, like his buddy. He might be a behind the scenes guy. And how does he handle that? Does anybody ever respect him for what he was? In season 1, he was writing for the radio guy in the morning show. Now he's writing for Roy. But actually at the end of season 2, he has his moment because Roy comes out and wants to take him out on tour and have him open for him. So then again, we have to see, we get to see the alliances forming. Ralph and Adam do their thing. They hit some rough patches last year with them kind of clashing, as the two black comedians on the show, and Ralphie being a behind-the-scene guy, a writer, and now Adam coming in and being just a natural at comedy and just being young and just being very talented, as a comedian. And Ralph has to work for everything. So, and he's older and less marketable for a number of different reasons. So we see that alliance. Nick was a little bit all over the place. Cass was a mess this year. We didn't see a whole lot of Bill Hobbs, which played by Andrew Santino. Manny was kind of like an ancillary character or something. The manager, Ron, I believe. Nah, not Ron. I don't know what the manager is, but he was running around with Manny this year. That's how insignificant his role was kind of this year. The club manager guy that worked was Goldie's right-hand man in season 1. He kind of was, his move for him to become a comedian from just being the manager, they really didn't go into that much this season. So who else was on there? That was kind of it as far as my major issues. Let's move into the wins quickly. Melissa Yeos, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but she plays Goldie. she's a phenomenal boss. And I don't mean that just as the owner of the club and the boss of the comedians. Just in bosses in general, when we look at most of the TV shows that we like, whether it's Tony Soprano, Avon Barksdale, Stringer, Marlo, um, even a boss in Billions with Axelrod. Goldie is really good at what she does. And she doesn't wield her power, with the way that most of the males do in the other shows that I just mentioned. She has to use a lot of gal, a lot of influence. Um, she has to be very crafty at what she does because she's managing this workforce that she does not pay, which becomes one of the central issues in season 2. But Goldie is just pretty phenomenal. And we get to see a range. She probably has the widest range of, emotions and whatnot that we get to see because she was dealing with her daughter. She encounters her ex-husband once or twice this season. She's working on this project to launch Goldie's West. And then once she finally breaks down the walls and has like her and her daughter resume speaking to one another, then we have to see how she keeps that relationship kind of rekindling itself. But she's phenomenal. I like Goldie a lot. The second win, and this is kind of probably in backwards order, but it's in random order, I guess. But like I just was mentioning, Goldie and her daughter have a reunion. And that was a good thing because in season 1, it's just this empty room that she wanted painted by Adam. And here we actually get to see her daughter more. I meant to look her daughter's name up before I started, but it was rocky the first 3 or 4 episodes. We didn't know if the daughter was going to go off again and leave, or if she would actually soften up. And that's what we had a problem with several characters this season, is for them to actually say what the hell was wrong with them. So it was suspenseful for a couple of episodes of whether or not the daughter was actually going to say what her problem was and communicate to her mother, why there was this major rift between them two. So, or those two. So that was a great part of season 2, a great storyline of season 2. Number 3, Nick moving into radio and kind of finding his footing. The last few episodes of the season I thought was a great move for Nick's character, as well as a great move by the writers. He just seems to be a natural there. And it's just great that he was able to find some way to kind of fit in and be productive and be functional again, and find the impetus to kind of take his sobriety serious and act on it. So it was good, towards the end of the season to see him excelling in, professionally, and then also bettering himself and improving himself, which again, I don't think he ever really came out and said what happened to him, which I guess he was molested by his family member that came into town. But that was a great part of the show. And I think ultimately, and I'll get to it in a minute, but I think this was a season that you can kind of actually watch backwards to forwards and see that what it was doing, and appreciate the story a lot more than watching it week by week because it was a little slow. Fourth, the season finale, like I just mentioned, really brought the entire season together because the club goes up real quick. Bill has rallied the troops and stages his protests. Goldie counters by going out, actually, because Roy Martin has had she referred to it as being under the weather, but Roy Martin had actually had a real bad, he just, what do they call it? He had a breakdown, basically, but just lost it. And that's her business partner in that venture, Goldie's West. So she needed a quick replacement. She countered with Richard Pryor, which was cool to see that character brought back, from season one. And then the other cool cameo this season was Muhammad Ali making an appearance. And but yeah, Goldie goes in and sticks to her guns about not paying comedians, and opens up her new club, and we get to see um, how this kind of plays out through the people that are loyal to Goldie and still are kind of under her enchant, or kind of easily influenced by her, and they appreciate what she's done for those who she has helped. But those that really want to make a living and just don't want to work for free, and just aren't buying the whole school aspect of Goldie's business that she keeps running out there, that she's running a comedy school that she just happens to profit from through the sale of liquor, and then the door fee or door charge. So yeah, I think the season two, the finale, I was watching it earlier today with a smile on my face at kind of how the writers really brought it home. And then obviously, which brings me to my fifth point, is it's a pretty strong cliffhanger, because Roy regroups and makes his way back to help out Goldie, because she was in a bad spot, opening up or having her grand opening for her club with no headline act, as Richard Pryor jumps out of the car and joins the protesters, as opposed to going in and headlining the opening night for Goldie. And that was another hilarious part of this year, which was like one scene stretched over maybe an episode and a half or something. But Goldie's longtime friend, who happens to work on the Johnny Carson show, what was that, Late Night with Johnny Carson? But his role was phenomenal, because Goldie's daughter lets it be, or tells her mother that she slept with him years ago when she was, well, actually she's only 18 or something, but when she was 15 or something, and she tells her mom that's who it was, and that's her major ally in maintaining her, her empire, or her hold on the comics, is funneling comedians through him to Carson. So Goldie goes up there and goes off on her friend and threatens her, her strongest relationship, and everything. He's probably the crux of her business, is that relationship with that guy. And they mess around. She had just poured him a drink, a shot of scotch or something, in her office, and then he charges out of the office after Goldie calls him out possibly for sleeping with her daughter, and he ends up falling down the stairs. And I think the daughter was just coming back to tell the truth, and the daughter understands that that lie has really gone awry and is kind of could ruin her mother if the friend walks out. And so he falls down and breaks his leg, and then the daughter comes right over and says, I was just messing with you. It didn't happen. And the dude gets right up after falling down this flight of stairs, and is like, you know what? Let's talk this over. I think I left a drink, a full glass of scotch or something back up in your office. And they go back up into the office, and really quickly the relationship resumes. And so I thought that was a cool part, because he actually shows up in the finale with the full leg cast on. And like I said, I really want to see Goldie win, even though I think it's kind of a raw deal, but I think she's keeping these comics hungry. And I think, there is a method behind her madness, and it's probably doing those comics better than what they think because they're looking at the short term. You know, Bill Hobbs mentions that he had to buy another comedian a $2 hamburger or cheeseburger at Cantor's, and he was like, "That's wrong." So, but I get it. You know, Goldie's message is you'll stay hungry, figuratively as far as towards their career, but you'll write your best material and you'll work hard. You'll show up to work every night. Whereas if I pay you, you know, you might get enough money to get lazy with things. So it's kind of that, you know, it's a bit of a dichotomy what's going on there. So, oh, and then the strongest of the cliffhangers is that we could actually lose another cast member because at the end of the show, and you kind of saw Ron was headed off the deep end, and at the end of the show, in the closing moments, he's in his skating rink. He's down on the ground laying flat with drooling from the mouth where he's OD'd on his cocaine. Eddie went home. He had dropped Eddie off to go. Eddie was, you know, kind of renewed as far as being, you know, having his opportunity to go out with Roy Martin. So he's all, his spirit is all rekindled, and you know, he's reinvigorated as far as getting into pursuing his comedy. And Ron is like in limbo because he really wants to leave behind Benny the Mailman, but even though he quit Watts Local, the show with the black cast, now he has the opportunity. His agent has went and secured him a spinoff, almost worth like $800K in 22 episodes or something. But he really doesn't want that to be what his identity is. He wants to be Ron Scheck, a comedian. And then lastly, before I do go, I forgot completely to mention it, but like I said earlier, with Ralph and Adam not really doing much on stage this year, the thing that they had going on was putting together their show. And I guess that was another cool part, another victory or win for this season was that the show got trashed by NBC, who was looking at it because it was too forward. It was too, you know, they got into some heavy racism, you know, related themes in some of their sketch comedy, I guess, that's on the show. And we really didn't see a whole lot of what they had going on. They more or less talked about it. And then at the end of it, they get the Trade magazine, which had a really favorable review of their program, although it came on like 2 in the morning. But somebody said that it was incredibly smart, and you know, it's likely that even though if NBC doesn't come back to the table, then maybe there's another person that picks it up. So that's kind of what went on for season 2. You know, if you want to talk about it a little bit more, let's get in the chat or in the comment section below and say some things. Let me know if you liked the show, didn't like the show, why not, and you know, if there's any other shows that maybe we should look to in the future. So again, this is your man Wood from the Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment Podcast. And also, please be sure to check out my new venture, which is bitedownboxing.com. You know, I do a lot of boxing on the podcast. So I would appreciate if you went out there and checked out, you know, what I got going on at bitedownboxing.com. And then also, you know, give me a follow on the social media accounts for bitedownboxing.com on Twitter and Instagram. Hey, I'm out of here. Thanks for your time.